5 days. More than 100 police and volunteers, cadaver dogs, drones, acoustic testing, and one of the most difficult pieces of terrain in Victoria. And after all of that, nothing. The latest search for Dezi Freeman has ended in Mount Buffalo National Park, and police have confirmed there is still no sign of him, no body, no weapons, no trace that explains what happened after he fled into the bush last August. This wasn't a routine operation. Police were explicit this time about what they were looking for. They weren't searching for a living fugitive moving between huts or hiding in caves. They were searching for Freeman's body and for any firearms he may have carried with him. And they found neither. Victoria Police confirmed the 5-day search wrapped up after scouring roughly 1.3 square kilometres of steep, dense bushland. 2 cadaver dogs trained specifically to locate human remains were deployed. Officers and volunteers worked through terrain police themselves described as extremely challenging. Yet despite that effort, there was no evidence found to suggest Freeman is alive, and no evidence found to confirm he is dead. That result leaves this case in a strange place. Just days ago, police said they strongly believed Freeman was dead in the Mount Buffalo area. That belief was the basis for this operation. It shaped where they searched, how they searched, and the resources they committed. Now that search has ended with nothing to show for it, and police are once again returning to the same 3 scenarios they've outlined for months. That Freeman died by suicide or misadventure in bushland near his home, that he is still alive and being harboured by someone sympathetic to him, or that he escaped the region entirely and has survived on his own. In other words, after the most targeted operation yet, the investigation is back where it started. This search was triggered by a witness who told police they heard a single gunshot roughly 2 hours after the officers were killed on August 26th. Police treated that information seriously enough to conduct acoustic firearm testing in November, and again this week, narrowing in on this specific area of Mount Buffalo. Police won't say what type of firearm may have been involved. They won't say how confident they are in matching the sound. They won't say whether the testing reduced or expanded the search area. All they will say is that the information was corroborated, acted upon, and ultimately did not lead to a discovery. That matters because this was not speculation driving the search. It was police intelligence, and it still led nowhere. Police have also confirmed they continue to review trail camera footage and private CCTV from members of the public, looking for any sign of Freeman's movements. Again, nothing has emerged. At this point, it's worth pausing and asking something simple. If police were confident enough to say Freeman was likely dead in this area, what does it mean when an operation built on that belief comes up empty? One explanation is straightforward. The terrain is unforgiving. Bodies can be missed. Evidence can be hidden. Dense bush does not give up answers easily. That explanation is reasonable and police will lean on it. But there's another possibility that's harder to ignore. That the assumptions guiding this search may not fully match what actually happened after Freeman fled. Police themselves have said they do not have intelligence pushing them decisively toward any one scenario. That hasn't changed. What has changed is that one scenario was tested more aggressively than before, and it didn't deliver. None of these explanations sit comfortably anymore. There is, however, one theory that keeps surfacing quietly whenever searches like this end with nothing. And it's not one police have leaned into publicly, but it's one that naturally emerges when every other explanation starts to strain. The possibility that Freeman did not remain in the bush long enough to be found. This doesn't require an elaborate conspiracy. It doesn't require a coordinated network. It only requires a brief window of opportunity early on, before the area was saturated with police. If Freeman encountered someone shortly after fleeing, injured or otherwise incapacitated, the chance exists that what happened next unfolded somewhere far from where police have been looking. That idea makes people uncomfortable because it challenges the assumption that the bush must hold the answer. But consider what this search has just told us. If Freeman died in that terrain, police have now searched it multiple times, with increasing precision, and still found nothing. At some point, absence stops being neutral. At the same time, this theory raises serious problems of its own. Moving a body, hiding it, leaving no trace, no vehicle sightings, no camera hits, no witnesses, no fractures in silence, all while $1 million reward sits on the table, is not easy. Secrets like that tend to leak. People talk. Pressure builds. And so far, police say none of that has happened, which is likely why they haven't pushed this angle publicly. But the fact it keeps coming up says something important. It speaks less about belief and more about frustration. When official explanations fail to resolve uncertainty, people begin looking sideways instead of forward. Right now, police are caught between what they suspect and what they can prove. And when a theory remains unspoken, it doesn't disappear. It simply waits. At this point, let me ask you something, because the response to these updates has been coming from all over. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments. What's also striking is how little police are saying now that the search has ended. There's no reassessment announced, no indication of what comes next operationally, just a statement that the search for Freeman or his remains will continue. That phrasing is deliberate. It keeps everything open. It avoids admitting a dead end. And it prevents any need to explain why such a resource-heavy operation produced nothing. For an audience already skeptical of official narratives, that silence lands heavily. If Freeman died in that area shortly after the shooting, how was no trace left behind? No clothing, no weapons, no remains, no identifiable path. And if he didn't die there, what does that say about the intelligence that led police to commit so fully to that theory? There's also the question of time. More than 5 months have passed since Freeman vanished. Surviving alone in the bush for that long would be extraordinary, even for someone with bush skills. Being harboured would require silence from others that has held remarkably well. And dying in the bush without being found after multiple searches raises its own problems. None of these explanations sit comfortably anymore. What this latest update really does is expose the limits of what police actually know. The confidence expressed earlier this week has now been tested, and the result is absence. No answers, no confirmation, just continued uncertainty. That leaves the public, once again, being asked to hold two ideas at the same time. That police strongly believe Freeman is dead, and that they cannot prove it. That they are searching with intensity, and that those searches keep coming up empty. The case isn't closing, but it isn't progressing either. And that's the uncomfortable truth sitting beneath this update. After 5 days, hundreds of personnel, and some of the most focused searching yet, we're left with the same unanswered question that's haunted this case since August. What actually happened to Dezi Freeman after he disappeared into the bush? And more importantly, how long can an investigation stay in this limbo before silence becomes the final outcome? If you want this case followed properly, not just when it's dramatic, but when it goes quiet, make sure you're subscribed. These stories don't end on press conferences. They resurface when people stop paying attention. Tell me what you think.